If you are a paper crafter who doesn't believe that it's worth it to save your scraps, or if you're a paper crafter who is intimidated by even what to do with your scraps, I hope that in this video I can either change your mind or shed some light on how to use scraps and remind you that they are worthwhile. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. Today I'm going to be sharing with you what I made for the Smash Our Stash collaboration. This is a collaboration I host with participants here on YouTube and Instagram. Those participants will all be linked in the description box below. And each month we have a different theme or product that we are supposed to try and work with that month. And this month was free choice. And so even though we've already done scraps once this year, I really wanted to focus on them again. So I hope to kind of spend this month, the month of April, on using up some of my scraps. So I have a ton of projects for you today, and some of them will hopefully show you that scraps can make meaningful projects, not just scrap. I mean, cards are meaningful, but not just cards. And I have a lot to go through, so I am not going to be able to spend a ton of time on, each item. I did use some card sketches to kind of help me with my scraps. I will tell you that when I had made some of these other projects, I took the scraps I had left and kind of sorted them by size. And then, especially once I got down to the smaller or thinner pieces, I had them sorted by width, and then kind of looked through my sketches to see what I could make with those widths. And so I just kind of grouped them together like that. So a lot of these sketches that I used were at the end, and so you're going to see what I made with the strips that I had left. So this is Operation Right Home sketch number 25. Just brought in some scraps and some stickers. And then Operation Right Home number 154. I use that all the time. And again, these just use 1.5 inch squares, and so I used a bunch of those. I did die cut out a lot of bunny shapes using my silhouette, and so I had a bunch of those left, and I was trying to use those. This is vinyl that was left over from another project where I had the Hoppy Easters, so that I used all of those phrases up that I had left. Different variations of that. This is SNS sketch number 6. And just again used a bunch of strips and then kind of varied how I decorated them on a few of them. If they were plain, I did pull in some bunnies shapes that I had. Operation Right Home sketch number 171. I like these like watercolor patterns. They worked really well together. And then the last sketch I used was Freshly Made Sketches number 356. And I was just trying to use some of these thinner scraps. I had a bunch of long strips of the bunnies, and so I just kind of pieced those together. And then these carrots I had already die cut in my stash from previous projects. So I also tried to use a lot of the little kind of odd shaped scraps that I had left. Maybe it was where I had die cut stuff out and had these little corners left or whatever. I punched a lot of flowers. So I had 3 sizes of flower punches, and then I layered as many of them up as I could to kind of actually make, a layered flower. And then I did use several of those on my card. So this one used 6. And I just added a sentiment here kind of in the middle, and then used up another flower on the inside. I did use scraps on the insides of all my cards. All my cards are A2 size with the exception of a few mini slimline. And I also want to say that, all of this was scrap paper pattern paper that I used, but I also did not cut any cardstock to make these cards other than my card bases. All of my card mats or, matte pieces were from my scrap cardstock bag or that were already pre-cut as an A2 or slimline card mat. So I really focused on scraps. Some more flowers, this time in a grid, very similar to the Operation Right Home sketch number 154 layout. And then that is the same as well. And then at the end, I had a bunch of the bunnies left, various sizes, and so I grouped them together as best I could. Here were 3 of the same size, and I just brought in some of my tiny flowers that I punched as bunny tails. This one is a mini slimline, so it is 3.5 by 6, and this was a mat I already had in my stash to fit a mini slimline. Brought in 3 more of those bunnies and another Happy Easter vinyl sentiment. This one, I matched the bunny. I actually had 3 of the same pattern, and so I brought in some of the yellow polka dot pattern flowers for their tails, and this says, "You are somebody special." It's a cute little sentiment. I love these pink bunnies, my favorite color of pink. I like how bright this card is. Just put 2 pieces of pattern paper kind of together to make my card mat, and then added my bunnies. And then the same way with this one, I added 2 pieces, kind of pieced them together to make the card mat, and then added the panel with my bunnies on it. And then this one doesn't have bunnies, but it is 2 pieces kind of grouped together there to be my background. And then instead of Easter, I went with a bird day theme on those. So now we're just getting kind of into a random pile. I did have some quilled Easter embellishments in my stash from my mother-in-law, and so I brought those in where I could. I'm not going to talk about all of these because it'll take too long. I will note that this is a piece I harvested from another greeting card that somebody had given me years ago, and I had just seen it recently, and when I saw this paper that I was going to use for a mat, I remember the tulips would go perfectly with that, and they do. More strips, kind of piece things together here. This one is a shaker. I did not make it. My mother-in-law had given me this shaker element. She'd picked it up at a garage sale, so I decided to put it to good use finally. Kind of various pieces grouped together here. And then these are all like those strip cards. So where I just took a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece of cardstock and just put adhesive all over the front of it and then laid strips. And some of them I did go ahead and do like an embossing folder just to give them a little bit extra. But I have a ton of these, and I did print these for my silhouette. I wanted something like big and bold just because there was so much going on the background of the card that I really wanted the sentiment to kind of stand out. So that's what all of these are. So I don't even know how many cards I have. There's a ton. And then I die cut a lot of bunnies and other shapes. And so I had seen a picture or a product on a sign, like a little sign on Kirkland's website several months ago, and realized that it's something I could easily make. It's actually similar to a fall block sign layout that I've made in the past, and so I decided to do it with Easter as well. And I just took my scraps and some of the thinner ones and cut a bunch of eggs out of them, and then just kind of group them together and use some vinyl to say Easter blessings. And these are about 5 by 7, so it's like a 2 by 6 that was cut down. So I have 3 variations of these, and then I used some of bigger bunnies. This is actually a style block that I've made in the past. I've just always done it like with maybe a plaid. So this time I just brought in a bunch of different bunnies that I had cut, and there are pom-pom tails that I hot glued on. So I like how bright and fun these are. So I got a whole bunch of these. And there is a paper flower stuck to that one. And then the last block I made was just my favorite style, Every Bunny Welcome. So I just used vinyl for that and then added all of my bunnies, my paper bunnies. And I used Mod Podge to do all of these, by the way. And then these also have little white vinyl tails on them. So they're not 3D, but they are like little tails. Again, just kind of grouped some of the different patterns together that worked well. And then also, when I die cut, I made some little garlands. I figured these would be good for my daughters to hang in their room. Just took some patterns, anything that I could cut, at least one bunny out of. So that one is just bunnies, and this one is bunnies and carrots. Yeah, so just kind of variety of patterns, bright and fun. And then I have some more eggs and bunnies that I can use on blocks in the future. And then I had a bunch of like random bits left, like here's flowers that I punched, the different shapes. And then I had a few bunnies, kind of random bunnies left as well. And I can use these on future projects. So made a lot with my scraps, and this was just my Easter and spring scraps. And this was the bag that they were in, and it's now empty. So yay for that. Hopefully you got some different ideas on how you can use scraps. And I know everybody, it's free choice, so who knows what everybody else has chosen to use for their theme this month. Please be sure to check out all the participants in the description box below to see what they made and get more inspiration on using up items from your stash. And I do hope to have some process videos throughout the rest of this month. I do want to keep focusing on scraps. Couldn't do a process necessarily for this, but I will have some process videos and kind of my thought process and my kind of how I organize my scraps and to work on using them up. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so very much for your time today, and hope you all have a very crafty day.